I told you midlife isn't the beginning of the end, but the start of finally reclaiming your own power? What if everything you've been feeling recently, the fatigue, the brain fog, inflammation, weight gain, emotional swings, isn't just a sign of getting older, but it's actually symptoms of a system that's been broken for years, your system? In this episode, the first of two on this subject, we're breaking down the truth about why your body is fighting against you and what you can finally do about it. No fluff, no shame, just the science, the hormones, the gut truth, and yes, the little GLP meds people love to whisper about. So if you've been doing almost everything right and still feel like hell, this one's for you. Let's go. Welcome to I'll Say It Anyway, the show where bold truths, real talk, and a little bit of badassery collide. I'm your host, Beth Friesen, and I've got thoughts on leadership, mindset, reinvention, and moments that matter. So grab your drink and let's go, because I've got something to say. Let's get into it. Episode 3, The Midlife Reset, Hormones, GLPs, and the Truth, Part 1. You know, I was going to do this all in one episode, but I heard from a lot of you that said you loved a little bit shorter episode because, let's face it, we're all busy, right? So I decided to break this down into 2 episodes, and let me just tell you this. This is just the first of this topic. We're going to be bringing in specialists, people who do this kind of stuff day in and day out to truly talk about it, dive deep into it, and really help you gain an even better understanding. But I wanted to start the subject because it's a passion of mine with a 35,000 foot view so that we can just kind of do a flyby, if you will, to look at it briefly. And then, like I said, we're going to get into this more as we go. But I decided to break it down into 2 episodes so that it's a little bit more easily digested. And let me just say this. I'm going to step into it today. And I'm probably going to get some feedback. And I'm willing to bet some of it's not going to be positive. I'm not necessarily going to talk about topics that are popular with people or have the opinions that are popular with people. So I'm going to say it anyway. I'm stepping into it here. And if you don't agree with what I have to say, that's okay. I know a little bit about all of this because I am an RN. This is a passion of mine. I have studied, I have read, I have listened, but I'm not an expert. Nor do I claim to be one. But I am going to point you to the people who are experts. Everything will be linked in the show notes so that you can go study and learn more. Is that fair? The other thing we need to do right now is a disclaimer. I am not a physician, nor do I play one on TV. This information is for entertainment purposes. I do not claim to be able to diagnose or treat or know the solution for you. That is between you and your provider. So keep that in mind as we go forward. Hey, the 80s called. They want their bad diet advice back. We need to start here. Because before we talk about what works, we need to understand what went wrong. And if you're over 35, feeling tired, foggy, bloated, inflamed, or like your body just doesn't want to cooperate with you anymore, you're not imagining it. You're also not alone. Something has changed, and it's not just you. It is the world we're living in. One of the experts I want to introduce you to is Dr. Casey Means. She is a metabolic health expert and the author of Good Energy. It is a fascinating book. And I'll be honest, It's what I call deep water. Takes a little wading. You've got to digest this one. If you are medical, it will be much easier for you to digest. If you're non-medical, maybe the Cliff Notes version, I don't know. But if you enjoy stimulation in your brain in these ways, well, then good energy might be for you, and you're definitely going to learn something. But in her book, Good Energy, she says 93% of Americans are metabolically unhealthy. I call it metabolically busted. 93%. And that, my friends, is a national energy crisis. You might be thinking, how in the world is my metabolic health an energy crisis? Well, let's get into that. We have to start at the cellular level because that's where energy is created. I'm going to take you back to sophomore high school biology here for a moment. Hey, hi, Mr. Moran, how you doing? I'm not talking about the caffeine buzz kind of energy, not your 3 p.m. coffee or your energy drink. I'm talking about mitochondrial energy, the real fuel your body uses to function and repair, to detox, and really to thrive. Here's the problem. Our mitochondria, the tiny powerhouses inside each cell, are under nuclear attack. Years, decades of ultra-processed foods. I'm talking about boxed cereal, Cheetos, sodas, candy. You get the idea. Environmental toxins by the truckloads. Blood sugar spikes because we're always looking for the next hit of energy. Poor sleep hygiene. And then let's put a good dose of stress on top of all of that. All of those things taken together have damaged the very systems that we need to keep us alive and energized. And when your mitochondria are damaged and not working right, well, let's go over a few things that can happen. You gain weight even when you're eating less. Your brain kind of feels like it's running on a slow Wi-Fi. We know how frustrating that is, right? Your inflammation stays chronically elevated. Your poor hormones cannot regulate themselves properly. And your mood? Well, don't even get me started. This isn't just getting older. This is cellular breakdown. And it seems to be that right around midlife is when it tends to hit the hardest for most people. This isn't necessarily because you're at midlife. It's more of an accumulative effect. You know, years between 25 and 35, maybe you don't notice it so much, but it's there. And then every year after that, it just keeps compounding. And all of a sudden. Now, another thing that Dr. Casey Means talks about that no one ever warned us about is fatty liver disease. This was once considered a condition for heavy drinkers, but non-alcoholic fatty liver disease is now one of the fastest growing health problems in our country, even in people who do not use alcohol. In fact, get this is alarming. It is now the number one reason for liver transplants in America. And what's more, the very first case of pediatric fatty liver disease was not discovered until 1983. The first case. Somewhere around 15%-ish, give or take, it's in the book, of pediatric patients suffer now from fatty liver disease. That is just, it blows my mind, friends. It truly blows my mind. And why is this happening? Well, here I'm stepping in it. Ready? Because our food system is full of crap. Refined seed oils, canola, soybean, corn oil, hidden sugars and artificial sweeteners in everything. Ultra-processed, shelf-stable foods it's mind-blowing. This stuff doesn't go bad. My daughter did an experiment when she was probably still in grade school with a piece of wheat bread from the local grocery store. Put it in a Ziploc bag, put it in a drawer, and a few months later, it still looked the same. Maybe a little more dried out, but barely. That's frightening. And all those foods, they're designed for profit. The prettier they can make them with the bright colors and the creative marketing, the more money they can make. But they're sure not in it to nourish our bodies. And these bodies of ours, they were never designed to process this level of assault. Dr. Means describes this environment as a literal metabolic minefield. I couldn't agree more. And we're walking through it every day. We get hit with ingredients and habits that trigger insulin resistance, chronic inflammation, liver overload, and hormonal havoc. And that, my friends, is the very definition of a hot mess. And we call it normal aging, but it's not. In generations past, your grandparents' midlife was just a shift. Today, it feels like a freaking landslide. On top of that, we're navigating more stress, worse food, more chemicals, and faster-paced lives where we never move more than ever before. And it's happening at the same time that our hormone levels are beginning to decline. Muscle mass starts decreasing, gut health takes a hit, and the whole time societal expectations tell us to smile and just be grateful. So, my friends, now we have a little bit of an understanding of what has gone wrong. We had to set that stage so that we had a clear understanding of the problem before we could even begin to talk about solutions. Now, one thing that I believe is part of the trifecta that has worked for me personally, as well as for many other people, is the whole issue of hormone optimization. I like to use the term optimization because it's not just hormone replacement therapy. HRT is what a lot of people call it. It's not just a simple, you're this age, so we give you this amount of hormone. You may not even need some of the hormones. The trick is to optimize them, not only so that the lab values are correlating with a healthy body, but that your symptoms are representative of how you want to feel. So that is what we're going to spend the bulk of our time on yet today. And then next week, we're going to get into GLPs, cortisol, and some of those issues. But first, before we start to talk about hormones, I need to introduce you to the godmother of hormones. And I mean that in no disrespect because she's certainly not old. But this woman is amazing. Her name is Dr. Mary Claire Haver. She is a woman who is almost single-handedly changing the conversation in this country about hormone optimization for women. She is a double board-certified OBGYN out of Galveston, Texas, and a best-selling author, and the powerhouse behind The New Menopause, a book that literally should be handed out at every wellness visit for women over 40, period. That's all there is to it. Dr. Mary Claire Haver isn't just about writing books. She's about rewriting the narrative, and she's doing it with facts, fire, and fierce advocacy. She will comb the research articles, and then she puts them out there for all of us to see, and it is amazing. She is calling out the systematic neglect of women's midlife health, and she is saying the things most doctors won't. And don't you think that might resonate with me? I think so. She says, and I quote, We are not meant to live the last third of our lives in a hormone-depleted state, end quote. Now, I know what some of you are thinking. Well, that's how nature intended it. Or how about, I saw a comment once, a woman said, we just need to go back to the way it was done in biblical times. Honey, when you hit menopause in biblical times, you were dead. So thanks to antibiotics, modern medicine, all this stuff, we are living so much longer. So now we need the rest of the science to catch up, because we cannot, as women and men, live to be 90 or 100 years old in some cases and do that for 30 years without hormones. Dr. Haver is not just educating women, she's arming them with evidence. She is showing them their options. And she's doing it with the words we've been waiting, craving, just waiting to hear. You're not broken, she says. You're not crazy. You're hormone depleted and you deserve better. I love that. So let's talk hormones, because this is where so many midlife bodies, brains, and brilliant women have been let down. If you're one of the millions and millions of women whose doctor has ever said, your labs are normal, and yet you're sobbing in your car, forgetting words mid-sentence, your cycles are so out of whack, you don't even know what's happening anymore. You're gaining weight despite the green smoothies and the gym memberships, or waking up at 3 a.m. in a puddle of sweat. I see you, and so does Dr. Haver. And for years, we have been taught that this was all just part of the transition. But let me be crystal clear. This is not a transition. This is a biochemical freefall. And if we don't intervene, things unravel, and they unravel fast. Dr. Haver says it best, and I quote, hormones are not about vanity. They are about survival, about quality of life, and about the right to age with strength and sanity. End quote. Love it. Love it, love it. But we can't talk about hormones without first unpacking the massive fallout from the Women's Health Initiative study of 2002. This one study sent hormone therapy into hiding, literally. Headlines screamed, breast cancer, stroke, heart disease. Women panicked, or rather, doctors panicked. Prescriptions were yanked. Patients were left in the dark. And women were told to tough it out and maybe handed a prescription for an antidepressant. But Mary Claire Haver has unpacked this and is really bringing light to it. Others also have done the same. And some corrective action has even been taken to correct the fallacies in this research. But in my perception, no one's screaming it louder than Dr. Mary Claire. So some of the things they didn't tell us. The average age of the participant in the study was 63, and it is recommended for best results that hormone replacement therapy is started well before that. The study, and to me this is the biggest one, used synthetic horse-derived estrogen. Let's see. Let's put estrogen from a horse into a human, and let's see how that goes, shall we? What? And then also in synthetic progestin. Do you know what progestin is? Ugh, same thing. Disgusting. They aren't bioidentical hormones that mimic our natural chemistry. And things went wrong. Yeah, okay. Sorry, that one really gets me. And the follow-up studies showed that when hormone therapy is started within 10 years of menopause, women actually had fewer heart problems, not more. And now even the North American Menopause Society is saying the quiet part out loud, and I quote, "Hormone therapy remains the most effective treatment for vasomotor symptoms," vasomotor is hot flashes, "and prevention of bone loss, with benefits outweighing risks for most healthy women under 60. So why are women still being turned away or dismissed? Why are we still being handed SSRIs instead of estrogen? Right? Okay, so let's break this down. What do our hormones do for us? Women have 3 predominant hormones: estrogen, progesterone, and testosterone. Yes, women, the ovaries, in fact, produce testosterone. So estrogen protects your brain, your heart, bones, and skin. It keeps insulin in check and supports vascular health. Wow. Progesterone calms your nervous system, helps you sleep, reduces anxiety, and supports memory. Wow. And testosterone fuels and protects muscle mass, motivation, libido, and yes, confidence. Holy cow. Think about it. Think about your particular symptoms or the symptoms of someone you know and what those hormones are supposed to do for us. So when you drop off a cliff, is it a shock? Because your hormones have dropped off that same cliff. And while women are often told, "Oh, this is just aging," what's happening is a systemic depletion. Your body isn't betraying you as much as it's just missing the essential ingredients needed. So Dr. Haver is adamant. This is not something we should be white-knuckling through. Now, let's take a little detour into andropause. For men, this is real. Men have a hormonal slide too. It's quieter, slower, and honestly more forgiving in many ways. But it is fully recognized by the medical community. Starting around age 35, men lose testosterone at about 1% a year. Okay, not horrible. Between 35 and 45, you're still just down 10%. But by the time you're 70, that's 35%. Whew, that's a little different. And the results? Mood swings, increase in belly fat, muscle loss, depression, sleep issues, and a drop in motivation. And by a drop in motivation, I mean that feeling of, nah, I don't want to do anything. I'll just lay on the couch. That kind of thing. But here's the kicker. Men aren't gaslit. They aren't told it's normal. They're offered testosterone replacement therapy early, often, and with support of their providers. So let's be honest. If men experience the hormonal crash that women do in midlife, hormonal replacement therapy would be handed out like statin drugs. There would be awareness campaigns, billboards, podcasts called Testosterone Truths. But instead, women have been expected to suffer quietly. Well, I'm here to say, not anymore. Hormones are not optional. They are foundational. This isn't about looking younger. It's about staying alive and fully yourself. So, let's get into the real talk. What types of hormone therapy are available? What are the delivery options? How much does it cost? And what to ask your provider. because it's time we stopped whispering about hormone replacement therapy and started demanding real support. Now, I'm going to say it once again. I am not a physician. This is for educational and entertainment purposes only. However, it is important that you address this stuff with your provider. And if your provider gaslights you or dismisses you or says they are too dangerous for you to be using hormone replacement therapy, my unsolicited advice, get a new provider. Talk to people. Find one that will support you so that you can age the way you want to and that you can start to feel like you again. Okay? We've got several types of hormone replacement therapy. I talk a lot about bioidentical hormones because they're molecularly identical to the hormones your body produces. They are not synthetic. To me, this is very important. So that's what I would probably advocate for most of the time. Synthetic hormones, they have a different structure. They're commonly used in traditional prescriptions, not molecularly identical. They may come from an animal source. You also have compounded hormones, which is customized dosing, usually via bioidentical ingredients, and they are made by compounding pharmacies. And then there are FDA-approved bioidenticals. Very standardized dosing. They have been FDA approved, they're monitored, etc. This is a discussion for you and your provider to determine what type of hormone therapy is best for you. But now you know what kinds are out there. So how is it delivered? How do you get this into your body so you can still start to feel like a human again? There are oral pills. There are transdermal patches, which absorbs through the skin. There are creams and gels that can be applied topically. Injections, especially for testosterone. Pellets, which are like little grains of rice that are implanted under the skin. And then there are also vaginal rings that can be used for some local symptoms. Now, just like everything else in the world, we've got pros and cons. There's always a trade-off, right? So what are the pros of using hormone replacement therapy? Well, I think we've covered that a little bit, but let's just highlight a few. It can dramatically reduce menopausal and andropausal symptoms. It can improve bone density, brain function, skin tone, mood, libido, energy level, and it also may reduce the risk of Alzheimer's and heart disease when used early. So by that, I mean when you are perimenopausal or just became menopausal. Okay, what are the cons? It's not a one-size-fits-all, my friends. Dosing and the type and the form and how it's given to you must be carefully tailored and monitored through routine lab work. It takes a lot of communication with your provider and a commitment. There are some potential side effects, including breast tenderness, mood swings, spotting, acne, chin hair, just saying. A con can be the cost. Bioidenticals and compounded hormones may not be covered by your insurance. And then access. Sadly, many providers are still uninformed or hesitant to prescribe. And let me just say this, it's not that they don't care. It's not that they don't want what's best for you. But most providers are tasked with pleasing insurance companies, which means they don't get to spend as much time with you, as well as knowing so much about so many different things. Dr. Mary Claire Haver talks a lot about how little education on this subject is actually provided in medical school. If you, as a physician, if you want to learn more about it, you really have to take that into your own hands because it's not something that you come out of medical school with. So that's, in my opinion, a very alarming, but yet not surprising, and it explains why we are in this mess. Let's address cost for a second. I get it. It's expensive. However, I think you will find, and Mary Claire Haver will support, that some of these delivery methods, they're not as expensive as you think. And let's be real. Being sick or not feeling well, having heart disease or brittle bones, that's not cheap either. I don't know about some of you, but we have a tremendously high deductible on our insurance. And so you have to weigh that out. It's expensive sometimes to do these things, but it's also expensive to be sick, to miss work, to miss out on life with your family or your grandkids or whatever that might look like for you. So here's the truth. Hormone health is not a side quest, my friends. It's the foundation. When our estrogen, progesterone, and testosterone crash, it's not just about whether or not we have hot flashes. It impacts sleep, our ability to be strong, our sanity, and our sense of self. And no, we're not too old, too late, or too emotional to ask for help. This is science. This is survival. And it's time we stopped apologizing for wanting to feel like ourselves again. Next week, we're continuing this conversation with a deep dive into what I call the trifecta of midlife wellness: GLP medications, inflammation, and gut health. I'm going to share with you my own story of microdosing, breaking down the research and calling in some fierce experts who are helping women and men reclaim their power, one mitochondria at a time. This is not about chasing youth. It's not about vanity. It's about protecting you. So if your energy is running on empty, your digestion has been a hot mess, and or you've been wondering whether the GLP revolution is a miracle or a myth, you won't want to miss a word of what's coming, because this is the era of fully informed, wildly empowered, unapologetic women and men. And I'm here for every second of it, and you know I'm going to be saying it anyway. So that's a wrap for today. Thanks for hanging out with me. I hope something I said hit just right. If it did, share it with someone who needs to hear it too. Follow the show so you don't miss what's next. And if you're feeling bold, please drop a review. Until next time, say what needs saying, because you know, I'll say it anyway.